I'm going to call the Fire District Prudential Committee meeting of June 24th, 2024 to order. Do the roll call. Charlie? Ray? Mark? Seth?
Seth Burdick, present.
Fran Parks, President. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which is there, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Yep. So I understand the Civic Association has been working on the park, Katuitt Memorial Park. And I wanted to give people a little bit of history about the park. Because the monuments and the flag and how they're displayed was designed by the fire district and also paid for by the fire district. So the first memorial that was there was one for World War I. And I'm not sure exactly. I think the fire district paid for it, but they could have. I'm not sure exactly who did because we don't have those records. We don't have any annual reports before 1930. And the district came into existence in 1926. So anyway, it was carried into town by 3 trucks, all hitched up and connected to themselves. And it went to Captain Chatfield's yard first. Which is, okay. And that's where David Turbuck lives now, across from the library. Then at some time it was moved over to the cemetery, over to the library, along with a flag post. And after that was done, they had a ceremony for it, and the governor of Massachusetts came for the ceremony for World War I memorial. So starting in 1946, the fire district started discussing putting a memorial in the park. And in 1949, they put a warrant, an article on the for a motion for the town to purchase property in Katuitt for a park. And it finally passed in 1949, and they requested $1,500. And land was owned by Sally Sawyer, Roger Scudder, who had the gas station, Mr. Gibbs, who had a variety store, and a lady named Hamlin. So after they acquired it, then the fire district set up a committee to propose how they wanted to set up the park. Prior to that, World War II had started. So in front of the library, there was still the World War I monument there, and a wooden you can slide. I'm gonna face it down. Next. So there was a wooden memorial put up at the library with the names of the Katuitt men and women in World War II. And then in 19.
We're having technical difficulties, so I can't
do it.
Sorry, we can't.
So in 1949, this state legislature accepted the change of legislation, or enabling legislation, so that we could purchase the memorials and also fund the library. Um, so the Memorial District set aside $1,000 for the memorial park to, set up in 1951. There was another ceremony to.
And that's Main Street.
Yeah. So, in 1958, the school that was where the post office is now was torn down. And, a committee of Keith Rapp, Carter Whitcomb, and several other people wanted to purchase the property that was on the corner of School Street in Maine, which was, where the A&P grocery was located, and the post office. And there was and also the fire station to be located there. So a swap was arranged. So both buildings were torn down. The post office, the old school and the A&P, and they flipped the property, and that's why when you look at the park, it has that odd dog look, because initially when it was set up, that was filled with buildings. And, so, the committee. Yeah. So the district committees is the one who designed the park and placement of the monuments and the flagpole. See a plan that moves the monument to the center of where the flagpole is, and to move the flagpole to the property where the A&P was. And I think it needs to be more widely discussed, because there are still people in this village who were alive, who were in World War II, on that stone, or other people whose parents and grandparents were in those wars. So I don't think there's any reason at all to change the arrangement of the original plan for the memorial park. If the bushes are a problem because of one stone, just, cut the bushes down. But, I think it needs to be left alone. I understand from David Anthony that probably more memorials are going to be placed in the park because there isn't any other place in town to do it. And that's fine, just as long as that memorial is not disturbed. It was designed specifically to honor those people, and it should stay there. So, any comments? No, no.
No.
Any public comment?
You want to present on what happened?
Sure.
Right. Public comment was after the presentation. Are you saying it's public comment now?
No, we can do it.
I'll give you a moment. My statement was, I was putting two things together, so I'm just, So what has just been handed out, the 8.5 file is, by the way, my name is Richard Van Trump. I'm the senior architect with the town, Mark Marinacci, the town architect. And I'm going to just pull up and print it off. Mark, on three days, I'm going to give you something at all. What's on this? Well.
sit there to the video package.
Okay. Does everyone have a copy of 1 by 17 and? So we now understand, thank you. That, what is this, by the way?
Now.
It's
Like a
for-
Zoom thing.
Oh, you got a camera too? Oh my God, interesting. So, technology. So we've had this project for many years, as you all know, and the Civic Association has been wanting to move forward with the park and restoring slash reworking it to reflect the current conditions and what has happened to the site. So I think I'm going to start, if I might, with these photographs. Now, the first photograph is agreeably very difficult to see. That's the 8.5 by 11 sheets. It's a 51 image. You can see, I know it's very hard, but if you look at the blue line, that is the library property. And if you, it's very hard for me to point out to you, but there's a large white kind of crescent area there. The park's obviously not fully developed at this point, but if you look, there are two kind of dark blotches, one very near the blue line, right where it starts to angle down. That's one of the monuments. And the other one is actually in the, to the lower left. But that's not so helpful for this discussion. And I'm even good, it's 2001, but what I'd really like to draw your attention to mostly is 2009 and 2014. So if you look at a 2009 image, you can see the driveway to the parking lot. And you can see, of course, a little bit of the circle there where the flagpole is. You can see the monument, it reads as white. And then the other one is somewhat obscured by growth. In the 2014 image, you can see a drastic change. The driveway has been doubled in width. And the stairs have been added to align with the modern entrance to the library. It's very clear that originally the library faced the road, the original building. An addition was put on. That's now the entrance. The door was taken off of the front. And the library now has an entrance that faces the park. All of this work was done on town land. It's not library land, but you're not even getting into that. There's now this axial relationship that has been created by this stairway into a park that leads to nowhere. And if you look at the monument, those are benches that you see, the little rectangles. But if you look at the monument, it has been, with the addition of the width, just so you know, I love these monuments. I'm a big fan of bronze. I've worked on a lot of historic structures with bronze restoration. And the first thing I said when we went here was, this bronze has to be restored because it has bronze disease. That green color we all love is actually not good for the bronze. So we should get a statuary finish back on that bronze, take it to a foundry, have it restored. There are also several bronze attachment bolts that are missing from these, which concern me because I have had on prior projects when I lived in Rhode Island, things vanish because of the attachments gone missing. I quite frankly think we should almost be the one that has 2 or 3 attachments missing. I think maybe it's only 2. I have to look at my photographs. They should be secured so that they can't be stolen and restored. But so these monuments are what I keyed in on the first time I went to the park. So my point in this is that while I understand what you said, madam, the original relationship of these monuments to the flagpole have been superseded by this new dynamic that was introduced to the site. And in terms of What we would like to do, and we would hope to do, is move the flagpole so it is on axis with this stairway that has come into place. It's not very far back. And realign the monuments, rededicate and restore them, which happens very frequently in towns and cities throughout this country. Monuments are frequently moved when things change, restored, and given another sense, the importance that they may have once had that gets lost over time, as we believe is the case here, with a monument that has been put on the end of a little path up against a hillside by a driveway that no longer, sadly, has the place of import that it really rather deserves. So by realigning the circle, putting the flagpole back, putting an axial relationship with, and now I'll go to the drawings, the large format drawings. So let me go there. So here is what we have that is existing, the very first image. A few things just to cover. The path as it goes up to the church and by the playground, as it gets around the playground and then goes up where you see the writing on it. From there up to where it meets the street is not handicapped accessible. It is too steep a pitch. So that does not qualify, no matter what we would do to the path itself, in repaving it, whatever we could do. It is not considered accessible. So that's one of our first issues. Also, it goes onto the property of the church, as you can see from that dark line where it meets the road, School Street. So if you flip over to the next page, I'm sorry, they're back to back, not my preference, but, and by the way, there are the monuments. And then there's a Vietnam memorial monument as well, which I'll point out right now is kind of lost in the park. It's just kind of in the middle of grass, has no relationship to anything. There's not even a pathway to bring a person to it. So in this first iteration, it just shows if you get an axial relationship, it's a very simple, this is more of a diagram than anything, just to show nothing stayed, and you just created this axial relationship with the library and the stair that now goes into the park. But if you go to the next one, which has the green trees, this is, at this point, again, please understand, these might look like finished drawings. These are very much concepts. All this is a sketch. So take it for that. It is a sketch, it's an idea. In this image, you see we have realigned on the left side the walkway so that it remains on property. We do have lilacs there that we want to make sure we protect, but we've also redone the grading. So this now meets handicap accessibility requirements. At the library, again, you have this circle similar to what exists now, pushed back a bit with the new flagpole in place. And the idea would be to relocate the three memorials so they are in line and facing the flagpole. So we would, again, restore these monuments back to the bronze, get a statuary finish on it once again, as they had doubtless when they were new, and put them in a place of centralize them so they're facing the flagpoles and can be more appreciated. We have, in this, again, idea, taken away those four, whatever, I can't remember the number of them, three rectangular planting beds on the road, and put a new planting area in, a new landscape area. What that is, we don't know yet exactly how that works. If that's the final form, it isn't. We've added another node as you go down towards the corner of the roads. Doesn't necessarily have to be that. And as you come off that circle, it might be nice to make that more of a serpentine path as it comes down to that corner, which we now know is property we have to work with. We have a connection there, but there's an opportunity for something to happen with that circle. It doesn't have to. It could simply meet at that. You already have a pathway there. but just extending the park. Yes, sir.
Are we looking now at C4?
C3, C3, I'm sorry. But you can also go to C4, I'll flip to C4 as well, where similarly, this is if we keep it as it is. And we don't think this is an ideal solution at all, because we now have this connection to the library. The flagpole stays where it is. We don't move the monuments, and it all seems rather disjointed to us. And we feel there's an opportunity to make this a far more central, make that flagpole more important in a centralized location with this actual relationship with the library. And again, make the monuments more visible, quite frankly. Right now, the path to that monument is not handicapped accessible. It would have to be widened considerably so people could get to it. But that's the idea. Again, our preferred iteration would be C3, but this is take everything from the flagpole down to the corner as being open to changing to be whatever. I tend to favor more of a serpentine path, a more naturalistic path coming off of it. But that is, again, yet to be really explored. So those are our ideas. And we appreciate the idea that the monument is there and was placed in that very spot at one point. But I think to our way of thinking, the importance is the monument. Things have changed on the site over the decades, and the prominence it may at one point have had has been lost to time and the intrusions of a library driveway. So it really is this beautiful thing. I mean, I think they're both exquisite, sitting at the end of a little dead end. So there it is. Any questions for me?
I don't know if anyone's monitoring Zoom. My hand is up. Chris Rebello.
We can hear you, yes.
Can I speak?
Please.
I didn't have the benefit of being there tonight, and so I can't see your design, but could you explain to me, are you proposing turning these monuments to face a different direction and moving them backwards from where they are? I'm trying to understand. That's my first question.
Right now, I believe I'm correct in saying they face the road.
Correct.
Somewhat. Yes, they would be moved. So imagine the circle where the flagpole is now being slightly larger than it is, mostly to do with the width of the walkway and the accessibility requirements than any other desire, but effectively the same shape, moved so that it is directly in front of the stair. So it moves back in the park, so it's directly in front of the stair, but otherwise in the same relationship with a straight line to the road from the flagpole. You're just going to slide it back so it's in front of the stair going up to the library entrance. Then the monuments would be moved. So all three. We would take the Vietnam Memorial, which is kind of a kidney shape, the World War I, World War II, they would be moved so they radiate, they face the American flag. So they would be more prominently located on the outside of that circle. Exactly where we'll figure out. We probably don't want people going up and touching them. So, we'll make them a respectful distance for them, whatever that is. And they would be, certainly so you could plant something in front of it or put flags in front of it. And they would face the flag pole.
Which would be turned from the position they're in now. Instead of facing School Street, they would face the flagpole and be further back. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, then I am strongly stating my opposition because I think they are in a very prominent place. They are facing School Street, where every time someone walks by or drives by, they see the World War I and World War II monuments. I am concerned that you're saying you don't want them touched because I'm 67 years old, have lived in this 67 and a half years old, have lived in this community, have ancestors on those stones, on those memorials. So over those years, I have watched generations of people take their little children up, touch the name as you do at other memorials. And I see them as in a prominent position. I am all in favor of widening the walkways, making it handicapped accessible. It's not, that sidewalk is not accessible for anyone, quite frankly. It's danger and has been for years. I don't understand why the flag needs to be moved to be central to stairs to the library. I see it as a focal point right now. The plaques on the rocks are facing the street. They are prominent. The flag is between them, which to me has always connected them. You know, and our flag is still there, comes to mind when I look at them. I see absolutely no reason in moving them. You are correct that the kidney-shaped memorial is not as noticeable, but that could be addressed with pathways very simply, I would think. That's my opinion. And the minute you start moving rocks of that size, then what happens to them? And yes, they should be secured. That is concerning that they're not no longer secured. And I appreciate the Civic Association's efforts to upgrade, but changing it in that way is, you have a very different perspective than I. And I very much oppose your suggestion for the reasons that I said. So at least I couldn't be there in person. At least I could share my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I ask who is speaking?
Chris?
Sorry, I think it's Chris Robello, Robello.
There's another hand listed and these two people.
Yeah.
You want,
Well, we do. Whoever is raised.
iPad copy. You have your hand raised. Would you
Okay,
like to
can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
Okay, I will agree what the previous speaker said. I'm also concerned the park narrows as it goes back towards where the library steps come down, which now you're going to have the flag across from there. Yes, I understand the paths need to be wider. The paths are in horrible condition and would love to see them handicap accessible, at least from the Main Street side. I understand it may not be able to be accessible from the School Street angle, but then you're pushing everything further back in the park, away from the road and visibility, into a narrower part of the park. I just don't understand why there is any need for it to be changed, other than, yes, the sidewalks need to be upgraded. But that is my concern and comment.
I would encourage you to, I will leave the additional copies I have here to take a look. It moves back very slight, and the narrowing you speak of is really negligible. I would actually go so far as to say it isn't any narrower back there, maybe by a foot. But just if it, but all I'm gonna say is, it's very difficult to explain something in terms of a plan when one can't see it. So I would just encourage you to look at it, so at least you'll understand the logic of why we made this suggestion.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, I don't understand the logic. I have lived here my entire life. I have family members that are on the memorial. And I realize the flag going back further, it's not a huge difference. But yes, the park does narrow because there is that big dog leg that goes over to the corner of School and Main Street. So any pushing back of it is taking the focal point away from being able to see those memorials every time you go up Main Street, whether driving or walking. So I would respectfully disagree with you on that and just wanted to voice my opinion.
Yes, thank you.
Kathy, I'll get you a copy of these plans if you'd like them.
Okay, yeah, would they be made available somewhere? Obviously, they're not on the screen, but just in this descriptions, I'm very familiar with the park. Like I said, I've lived here 65 years, if you want my age. And I just don't see a need for moving the monuments. But yes, I all for upgrading and improving the walkways because they're in horrendous condition, not very walkable safely further into the park.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Oh,
He's not one to me, just a couple of times. Carol Zais, 86 Putnam Avenue, and also president of the Katuitt Civic Association. We have been working with the town of Barnstable, because this is town of Barnstable property, for over a year, re-engaging their services from the program, the Memorial Park plans that were put in place before COVID. And we were on schedule to get money from the town on the capital improvement plan, but COVID hit and everything changed. So this project has been going on for quite some time. We, as a Katuitt Civic Association, have been holding off doing any public announcements about this because the town has asked us to wait until they were further along in the understanding of the easements that have to be adjusted with the library and the playground and everything. So I apologize to the village because this is exactly the thing that Civic Association will be having community meetings about. And this is not something that I see the Prudential Committee needing to take up time on, because we will offer a whole community meetings to come and talk about it in person. So I don't have an opinion one way or another yet. These great people in the town of Barnstable these architects and surveyors and capital whatever are doing the job about looking into what kind of possibilities are for the Katuitt Memorial Park, which isn't even funded yet. So they're taking extra time away from their funded projects to do some of this for us. And I just really want to thank them. And I look forward to offering the community through publications and our newsletter and everything to know that we're going to have a public meeting regarding this, and that this is very much just the beginning process of the due diligence that the town is doing. So
Just so you know, the district does have an interest since they paid for the memorials.
I understand, but it is the town property.
Doesn't make any difference. The district still paid for the flagpole and the memorials.
We have raised hand.
Okay.
Penny, can you unmute? Is your hand raised, Penny? I asked her to unmute. Apparently her hand is no longer raised.
I'll raise it. So the question relative to design, Steve O'Connor, pardon me, can you, thank you. Where's the camera? I want my good side.
Yeah.
Steve O'Connor, Shell Lane. Sir, can you tell me if these, what I'll call cul-de-sac circles, are they any other purpose other than circulation?
You're referring to the two jobs of the only one. I said, they're just, yeah, they're very diagrammatic. It's just a note, it's like that something could happen there or not. As I said, I tend to favor that being a more natural serpentine kind of path down to the farm. So at this point, no, there is nothing specific for that. That is, it's just an opportunity or something if there was a desire.
Okay, great. And if I understand this correctly, what you're talking about doing is taking all the monuments and consolidating within the larger circle
On the outside, not within
on the outside so that the plaques themselves face the flagpole.
Yes.
As opposed to being able to walk around and be able to read the names. Otherwise, you have to enter into the circle to read the names.
That's, yeah, well, they're only one side. Yes, just like now, you walk on the path, there's one blocks, one side. In a similar way, if you walk on the path, yes.
Yeah, I understand that. So if I'm walking on the path, I'm seeing the back of the rock,
No,
I'm seeing the front of the rock.
you're seeing in front of you.
Very good.
Problems.
And I think the axial relationship to the stairs is the right one from the design perspective. I say that with 2 degrees in landscape architecture. The other thing I will say is that from a perspective of cost, I am much more in favor of more passive landscape as opposed to real intense new landscape for the amount of time, effort, and money that's necessary to cultivate those gardens, mow those lawns, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
So for me, trees and grass do it. You know, and it's much more representative of, say, a memorial. And as somebody who lives in DC, I actually think it's a much better experience to be able to view these things on foot. I have been in and out of Katuitt 40 years. I have never driven past to try to read those names. So the ability to be able to read those names more personally, I think is a better solution than driving along School Street or Main Street and seeing, oh yes, that's a memorial, having no idea what it is, without getting out of my car and walking and reading the names and paying my respects to the people who are on it. So that's me.
Yes.
Thank you, Patty Daly, Banfield Drive. I am not a landscape architect. I've seen a lot of plans, however, and I just want to express that I really like the lineup of the stairs, which the architect said are currently stairs to nowhere. I like the way the paths are lined up in this orientation. And I like the suggestion of a more serpentine path that's a little more natural and kind of fits in with the village feel. I also would support moving the monuments because I think it would make them more visible for people in the park. Thank you.
Carol Zeiss, I would just again like to say this is so preliminary. Nothing has been decided. Nothing has been funded. We're waiting for the okay from the town to say, you know, let's talk to the church, let's talk to the library, let's bring everybody back in and then go forward with community meetings. So we are so at the beginning stages. And it's been a year already and we're still at the beginning stages. So it's a slow moving project. Nobody's gonna be making any decisions without the community being given opportunities to speak up.
Just following up, what you said, again, Richard Ventrone. I know I started when I said this, but I want to just say it again. You look at these drawings, they look so finished, they look so, quote, professional in that way. They are only sketches. They are, you know, they're to scale, so they're accurate in the sense of the width of the pathways that you wouldn't get if it was just a piece of trace. But say, for example, this idea of the serpentine path and whether that circle is open down at the corner, all of those things are not in any way resolved. What is that little kind of bulge where near the playground, again, indicates does something to us, does something happen there? Is there a pause of some kind? Is there a bench? Is there something there? So please, it is this adding to what Carol said, it might look like we could go to construction with this, but it is nothing more than an idea to stir debate and thought and rework it. There would be many, many more iterations. Although I would say, to our mind, the axial alignment of the flagpole with the stair to the library would be something that we would like to see stay. And certainly we would be changing the path on the far left to make it handicap accessible. And just to be clear, no matter what we do, even if we kept it exactly as it is today, one of the project things we would have to do and would do would be to make these pathways accessible, wide enough, smooth, not trip hazards. All of those things would certainly happen.
Could I just,
Yes, sir.
Can I get the spelling of your last name, Richard?
Sure. Ventrone, Ventrone. I'm embarrassed to say in Italian it means big stomach. But yes, go ahead.
And I just want to express two things. One, Carol, thank you and the Civic Association for pushing this. We're happy with that, and to the extent that we're here discussing what are very preliminary plans,
Yes,
we want to make it very clear that we're very happy that this project appears to be moving forward, and we'd like to continue having it move forward, and I'm sure there will be additional discussion about it.
absolutely. And we very much want the feedback. We don't operate in a vacuum. If the customer, we aim to serve the end user. That's our goal. And also we want to engage in placemaking in the sense of making, bringing this park to the best it can be in terms of its importance. And we know the monuments. Again, it was the first thing I saw when I went there, those beautiful monuments.
So I
Moving
just-
forward.
Yes,
I just want to tell you that what you don't see that is not there any longer, there were benches by both those monuments.
or were there?
Yes, for people to sit.
Did they face the plaque? Or were they beside it?
They were beside it. And they were green, and there were some more of them going up the path towards the church. And people use those all the time, went and sat by the memorials. And the other thing is, I just think making changes to this so the library stairs line up with something is the poorest reason to do this. Can't the library stairs, the pathway from it, be angled another way? Don't see why it has to come straight down. I mean, making all this change so that the library stairs are accessible, they need to be accessible, but I don't think you need to, change the position of the monuments or the flag in order to do that. And the two ladies that spoke, their father was is on the monument, and their uncle who died in World War II is on those monuments also. So,
I mean, I would suggest, respectfully, that having moved monuments and seen them moved in cities and other places, I don't think there's anything disrespectful about restoring and moving monuments if they're movable in a way that is respectful to them. The fact that they occupy a particular spot, if that's a spot where something important happened, I would certainly agree. But in terms of relocating them and to increase their importance, and give them a sense of, I don't, to my mind of thinking, is in any way disrespectful to the people that erected it or to the people to whom it honors. I think quite the opposite.
I disagree. The decision to lay it out the way it's laid out was made by the people of the village, of the district, who, either fought in the war, or died. That's who made the decision to do that, were the people that were are affected by the people that are on them. I'm not, I don't have anybody, but the people I grew up with, so I just don't, I just think, I find it very disrespectful to move it just for the convenience of some steps to the library.
It's not about convenience. I must correct you there. It has nothing to do. The most convenient thing for us to do is nothing and simply put in new walks. It has nothing to do with convenience. It has everything to do with our desire to increase the importance of these things within a park that has changed over the last 70 and 80 years to reflect a different landscape and a different hierarchy of what is entering into the park. So what it may have looked like in 1939 or 1949 is very different, as I've shown you, from what it looks like today. So
I have much better pictures, trust me, of what, and drawings of what it looked like.
but it no longer looks like that.
The change, the library parking lot, change.
The change, as I said,
Change, but
yeah.
The two, on School Street, there were two of the, oblong, flower beds, that were like the ones that are on Main Street. Yeah, well, Carol, you smile, you think that's funny, but to some people, that's very important. Because, this is their family. That this affects, and I think you need to be much more respectful of what the people.
I think again, I'm sorry, I will take issue. We are being respectful. You might not like the design, but I would argue that the intent is to be respectful and to honor the monuments. It is not disrespectful to move monuments unless they say, on this spot right here, he fell from his horse. And that's one thing, but to move, it's done in Gettysburg frequently, and they reworked things when they wanted to open up the battlefield. They moved monuments, hundreds of monuments were moved to restore the battlefield to its original configuration as it looked after the battle. Monuments that people came, paid money for, put in place, dedicated, were moved to other places. And it was not considered disrespectful. They did it for a purpose. And so to restore a view of what a landscape looked like after a very important battle. So these things are done throughout the world frequently, but they're done with a measure of respect. So while you might not like the design, I respect that, but I will take umbrage at suggesting that it is disrespectful to move them, because it simply is not. It is done a lot to restore a monument and put it in a place of prominence and rededicate it and call attention to it once more might actually increase the visibility of it to people. So again, we could disagree on the design, but everything we do is done with the intent of respecting them and giving them a sense of provenance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
More to come.
There is another hand raised. She's spoken.
That's great, yeah.
It's Chris. May I just speak again? I am not implying that you're being disrespectful with moving them at all. I don't want you to think that. And I may have misspoken that you see them from Main Street. I think it is very respectful to have a sign that says Memorial Park and you see two memorials as you enter that park. It's just what's a priority in terms of difference of opinion of how they're placed, but I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Okay. Did everybody read the February minutes?
Yes, I did.
Okay, corrections?
Um,
Have a motion to accept them?
So moved.
second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ray?
Yeah, thank you. As I understand, we have to provide as many copies of the material we have and we would like, and also if it becomes helpful emails today. If you would like someone who might put me in contact with, we could make it so we can upload all of these plans and images for people to see. We're happy to do that as well.
So the facilitation will be as the next, you guys are going to get what you found in the survey. Moving forward. Question, are you doing public comment? It's next on the agenda.
We just did,
Oh, I thought that was just questions to
No,
the more part.
Generalized public comment.
it's the first public comment, there's another public comment at the end of the meeting.
So
We
we
can
were
have
under the
public comment.
impression questions were just for in reaction to the agenda item, and that public comment was going to be called. So we do have a public comment.
If there are other public comments relating to another topic, I think I should hear them. Sure.
This is- Okay.
Thank you. Patty Daly, Banfield Drive. I wanted to speak to the school ad hoc committee, which is actually an agenda item. On this agenda, I have to say, I'm not familiar with a format where public comment is the forum for speaking to an agended item. Like typically you can't speak during public comment if it's on the agenda. But if that's the way you are running your meetings, and I will.
We don't have public hearings or no specific topic.
Okay. So I wanted to speak specifically regarding the Katuitt Elementary School. My first point is several people have approached me recently to state that the lawn needs to be mowed and the outside graffiti needs to be taken care of. I don't know if we're striving to look like absentee landlords, but that's pretty much what we're looking like there.
We don't own the land, we don't own the field, we don't own the field.
I'm talking about the land around the school, like in the front where the circular drive is. Looks bad. There's large branches down. It looks like nobody cares at all. We had people coming to visit us on the 4th of July. I would hope before that we could get somebody out there to mow the grounds. And if you want volunteers to do that, let me know. Because people have come to me because they know I care about it and said I'd be more than happy to go out there and mow that land around the school. So you can do with that as you like. All right, regarding the ad hoc committee on the school. I have several things to say. First of all, I did send an email out today, this afternoon, regarding the process for how that ad hoc committee gets formed. My reading of the bylaws of the fire district is that it's the full committee that needs to form that district. Perhaps there's a feeling that the chair can, by fiat, do that. I would argue that under the bylaws, there's no delegation of authority to the chair to do that on their own. At the very least, I think the 3 committee members would need to vote to delegate that power to the chair. And then at least the public would know where the non-chair 2 members stand regarding the creation of this committee and what they think that should look like. Secondly, I'm a process person, and I think that good process equals good outcomes. And garbage in, garbage out is what it sounds like. A bad process equals a bad or an unuseful outcome in the end of the day. The Katuitt voters have voted twice, in 2021 and 2024, to study the school. I hope you will honor that, honor your duty to expend those funds to do the study in a way that is true to the intention of the article. So I just wanted to say that. And then finally, as to the membership of this potential committee, whether you do it or not, it seems to me that you would want people who have some interest or subject matter expertise, if you will, or knowledge about things that make a difference to writing an RFP to get this study done in a way that honors the wishes of the voters. So whether that be landscape architects or people with real estate development or building, contracting experience, or any other number, just people who live here with families who have an interest in maybe doing something with that building that could help them and their community, or older people who see potential for use of that school, that could help to create a community center that makes Katuah a better village. So, to the extent that you're setting guidelines for the types of people you might want to appoint to an ad hoc committee, if you explain what those guidelines are and why you think they're important. Thank you.
I have a couple questions. I know you put yourself forward as a possible member of the ad hoc committee. Have any other members of the public put themselves forward as potential committee members?
Yes, so here this evening is Pat Lentell.
I'm sorry, what's the last name?
Lentell. I've also been contacted by John Havel, has agreed to be on the committee. Jamie Jackson, who spoke on the at the special district meeting on the 4th, has agreed to be on, and Carol Zays has agreed to be on. And those are the folks that I've had personal conversations with prior to this meeting. They're all very interested and willing to give their time. They understand we might be looking at a meeting a week because we know we've already been delayed. We know we need to get this going. So the RFP can get moving, so the study can get done, so we can all move forward.
Questions?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, you guys have a lot on the agenda tonight that crosses over with Civic Association. I just want to, because Patty had discussed it, the mowing at the school where we own the school is different from what is being called Katuah Field now by the town of Barnstable. But at our Concerns of Katuah meeting, which Seth Burdick was there, I'm sure that there is some, I don't know if you've done anything further on contacting.
The field side, yes.
Yes, or when they mow the Katuah Field, that could they also mow the Katuah Fire District sections
They're
around
not-
the school? And,
But they will do it in conjunction if so the field is now, DPW went and brush mowed it after we had talked about it that like
Right.
2 weeks. A reminder times. But DeMello Brothers has got a contract to mow that end of it. They said that we could probably contact DeMello and have them do it continuous. But we haven't had a meeting since that
okay,
meeting.
so that's great.
Right.
And also the parking at the school, it was very clear that town people have all left. It's very clear that no enhancement to Katuah Field next to the tennis courts by the town of Barnstable is going to occur until the Katuah Fire District decides what's going to happen to the Katuah School. Because you don't want to be doing enhancements to a field that cars go and park on, which is very much, is what's happening now. So that piece of parking, there's a lot of people that park as well around the Katuah Fire District School. And I'm, just, are they asking for your permission? Because they have to ask the town for permission on the other lands. We need to want to set something up. You may want to set something up where people ask permission for parking around there, and or our liability for that. So just bringing that to your attention. These are items that have all come up at meetings with the town of Barnstable officials at our Concerns of Katuah meeting. Can you think of anything else, Seth? That was
That particular property, I don't think so.
okay.
That jumps out other than.
And I'm happy. I apologize if I didn't know I was to keep you guys informed about all this, but I'm happy to do so with any meetings I have in the future. You know most of them from attending our meetings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't had a meeting since the Concerns of Katuah. Was that, what day was that?
That was in May.
What, all we have is the district meeting, or no, we did.
You have, but you had other things you were working on.
Yeah.
But anytime you have any questions, please give me a call, email, whatever. And as soon as the town figures out the surveying issues that are there, they'll be, reaching out to the church and the library, and then we'll be having a big community meetings all about the memorial park.
Very,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
That one tell 336 Main Street in Katuitt. And no matter what happens to the school, I think that what Patty was talking about and Carol was talking about, we need to do something to that property and we need to do it right away because it's a real blight on our community. And it doesn't take much to mow a piece of land and to get in there and clean up the trash and to clean up the trees and so forth. And I'm sure that there are landscapers that would donate their time to do it. I know there are residents that will donate their time to do it. I'm one of them. And I know some other people will also. And it's horrendous that we're allowing that property to disintegrate. One of my friends went through that property a year and a half ago. He's a contractor who specializes in redoing schools. And he said it's one of the best built schools he's ever seen. And he has done it for over 40 years. And for us to let it disintegrate is terrible. And for us to not maintain the property is terrible. And if we don't have somebody out there this week to doing it, people aren't doing their jobs.
Right, is that, we are 11 months into the fiscal year, one more month to go, and I'm happy to report we are in a very strong position at this point. Revenue greatly exceeds the budget, and expenditures are substantially below the budget. I think if there's any one reason for that, it is the practice the committee has had to put forward conservative budgets, anticipating no revenue that we can't foresee and foreseeing as much as we can expenditures that face the district. It looks like we're headed for a strong finish. It should generate substantial amount of free cash for use next year. However, there are two areas that are of concern, primarily in the salary area. One is the fire department and the other is the finance department. In the fire department, we have incurred injuries. I think it was described to me that they've been operating basically one person short all year. And this means that overtime to fill in takes the place of that person. And obviously, overtime is 1.5 times that person would have earned. So I'm going to suggest in a moment, moving some of the reserve fund into the fire department to cover that potential overage. Yeah, I'm estimating it'll be about $25,000, which is a very small amount in a $2 million budget. The other area is finance, and it's a close thing there. It'll probably end up on budget, but as always, I tend to be very cautious and try to avoid any budget overage at this point. So I'm going to suggest to the committee that we move $4,000 from the reserve fund into salaries for the Prudential, which is basically the finance department. So I think we'll probably end up on budget, but rather than having an overage show, we can take this move now and avoid that. So overall, very strong revenue, very respectable expenditure performance through the 11 months, and I would anticipate that that's the way we're going to wrap up the year.
turning to articles, I would point out we do have, $15,000 left in the maintenance for the school building. So there are funds available to address, some of the needs that mentioned. However, I'll also point out that it's only $15,000, and we may have to address that sometime during the year, during 25 for maintenance. The ban for 696, covering ambulance, main repairs, hot part monitor, and the rollover of last year's ban was purchased by Cape Cod 5 in the early part of June at an interest rate of 4.99%. However, since the ambulance delivery keeps slipping out, it now looks like it might be hopefully the end of calendar 25. I think that's the latest guess that the vendor has been informing us. We're going to have surplus funds available for a substantial part of fiscal 25. And so we're going to have to maintain our T-bill investments. Right now, we have about $1.2 million, I calculate, 1.2 million in so-called idle funds. That is funds for projects that are not needed at the moment. And we've covered that with investments, $400,000 in CDs and the balance in T-bills, $600,000 in T-bills. We're looking to add $200,000 to the T-bill investment portfolio moving forward. And that's about it in terms of the status, unless there are any questions. Otherwise, I would propose the motion that the treasurer be directed to transfer from the reserve fund $4,000 for finance salaries and $25,000 for fire department salary.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Thank you.
Just briefly, the Freedom Hall announcement sign is seriously deteriorating. It's rotting, and so I think we need to replace the middle part sign with something made out of AZAC. So I'm going to get a price for doing that.
Talking about the sign right here with the glass.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And, so did you want to talk about the website?
Yeah.
Under matters
briefly,
not extensive, anticipated by the chair.
Yeah, we've skipped over the school ad hoc committee.
But we just heard about it.
Yeah, well, we haven't discussed it.
Okay.
Okay, can I use the restroom before we launch? You guys can launch into this discussion.
Okay, so let's, we go to something perhaps less controversial. It has been suggested, and I think it's a good suggestion that, the fire district website, could use, a fluffing, at the very least. Right now, we've got Lisa doing double duty, updating that. And I actually, let me pick out Carol. You have someone on the Civic Association, 2 people. Can you just contact me with their information?
Absolutely.
Your website is very good. I don't know if either of those guys do it professionally or they do.
I'm not 100% sure if it's professional, but they, one gentleman put it together, definitely knows what he's doing. And whether he does consulting or not.
If you can send me their contact information, and maybe well, and I'll jump on them. Okay. Another issue, very briefly, Ray, the paychecks issue.
So thank you for reminding me. I've engaged Alan Fall tax attorney, to investigate, and give us an opinion on what is the proper reporting, for taxable income on the W-2s. He has given me a verbal estimate, he's going to be sending an engagement. It will be about $2,500 or less to, get this done, but I think it's money well spent to get this issue resolved and off the table. Unfortunately, because of his workload, he will not be able to report back to us until the latter part of July.
And the water department and the fire department have been advised.
Yes, yes.
The other issue I wanted to raise was with regard to, corrections to the annual report. I approved it, and Lisa has approved it. I think Fran has approved it as well. How do we go about implementing those proposed changes? And I'll ask.
Well,
Lisa
you
first.
would ask me to create a track change version combining all of the corrections
Okay.
that we have seen. And at that point, you would all review them and approve of those changes.
So the short answer, we'll just look for you, to get that track changes together, and we will go from there. Thanks. One other issue I'll raise with, Charlie, one of the things that I noticed was the bylaws subcommittee made a change, I think it's section 11, relating to advisory committees. And that was in, an annual warrant that was passed. I don't see that change in the current version of the bylaw that's up on the website. Can you take a look at that? Sure. And we might as well go back a couple of years and make sure that any changes to the bylaws are implemented. I just want to make sure we got the correct bylaws. Great. Let us know next month what the point. Yes. All right, thanks.
Mark, since you were talking about changes, I think to a website, I couldn't hear a thing. If I'm going to be making some changes, could you repeat what you said to me?
It's gonna be the same kind of thing. He is going to identify any necessary changes. And we will, at
Okay,
the same time we look at the track changes.
okay, thank you.
We'll address them.
Meeting member Lynch? Yeah, I have a question. So you're talking about Article 11, Section 11, which I raised in my email regarding the creation of ad hoc committees.
No, this was with regard to, advisory committees and whether you needed to be a citizen of the village or. School ad hoc committee.
School ad hoc.
Yeah.
You guys are looking at me.
Yeah.
So it was my suggestion that we were gonna form the ad hoc advisory committee. And when we discussed it, we said that, well, there wasn't much support from from my fellow committee members. Then I said I would do it. But we would have to vote on it, it appears, rather than it just be created, right? Is that a fact? Is that?
No, I don't think that's a fact, but we'll do that to satisfy Ms. Dale.
I think we probably should vote on it. Basically, I'm having this struggle with what we, Prudential Committee, is responsible for and what the proponents of the special district warrant that required new study are responsible for in the sense of we indicated several times that we're looking for commitment, basically. And in particular, that if the community wants a particular type of study, that they communicate that to us. Doesn't mean that we necessarily need to follow those suggestions, but that's what we are looking for.
And I sent this to you by email.
Was this the,
So I sent you a, I'm sorry, Patty Daly, Banfield Drive. I sent you a PowerPoint presentation that
Yeah.
outlined what I thought could happen. A 2-page list of potential responsibilities of the ad hoc committee and a potential first agenda to get the ad hoc going.
right, and I did see that.
Okay.
So I don't think, and you also said that you wanted to take a year to do it. Correct? No, that's
I
what you-
sent you draft.
Just so the record's clear. I sent you draft documents and in my email, I was quite clear that, of course, it's up to you, whether you create this committee and how long you want them to serve. And in my mind, at the very least, they should be serving the interests of Article 2 from the special district meeting. What I've proposed is that after the study is finalized, that we citizens can take up a public engagement process, but if you wanted to keep your ad hoc committee together through that you could. So I'm merely putting suggestions in front of you all to consider moving forward. I understand that this is going to come back before the voters at some point for a vote to either demolish or pursue reuse. I'm good with that. I just want to make sure the study gets done well, that the committee supporting it is helpful and not obstructive. And the timeline is, of course, up to this committee. Thank you.
Well, for me, I personally have come to the realization recently that I personally do not have the bandwidth to chair a committee such as this, or to be the orchestrator of the committee with all my other civic stuff. And then at this time of year specifically, I can, but I don't want to. I would be taking a very hands-off approach to the function of the committee. And that's fine with me. I mean, because if you really think about this, I mean, if the people who are, it's essentially, if you look at the names, most of the names that Patty had referenced, they're the proponents of this. And that ultimately is the proponents of an alternative use are the people that voted to have this happen to begin with. So why not just have them all do it
but
and to
then,
participate in
well, I
the
think,
committee? I mean, I don't see what.
That's what I was trying
You know what I
to
mean?
articulate in an articulate manner. There's no reason that the group of people you identified can't get together and next month, however many meetings you need, come to us and say, Prudential Committee, this is what the kind of study that we think needs to be done. What's your reaction to that?
I think that's fine. I mean, are you talking about whether to create a committee or not? That this could happen outside of that committee process or that?
It need not be, I'm thinking aloud.
Yeah.
Need not be a formal committee. There is, because that implies, well, it need not be a formal committee. If there's a group that wants to suggest what the study should look like, let's stop monkeying around. Let's hear what you have to say. And not get kind of entangled in who appoints the committee, how many times the committee meets.
And I would be happy to lead that kind of non-official effort, if you will. You just need to give me a deadline so I know that you're not moving ahead without considering what I've pulled together, and I'll do that as quickly as I can.
we've already had our marching orders for what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to do an RFP on the building to either demolish it, B, demolish part of it, or C, find out, what purposes it can be used for, which I don't understand that. So I don't think we need any other information or input from anyone. Those are very straightforward decisions, how much is it gonna cost to demolish it? How much is it gonna cost to partially demolish it? And then people will know, what it's gonna cost.
with due respect, I think it's a little more nuanced than that, and I generally agree with what you said. I think what I see the RFP doing, and if you read my material I sent, I think it's pretty clear. All we're doing is looking at the physical plan of the building right now, the grounds in the building and the costs of keeping or demolishing. For example, so I'm not asking for a study of uses, so let's be clear about that.
That's what it
and-
said in
And
the motion.
And, the. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second there. The other aspects of writing an RFP that are more nuanced are things like maybe getting recommendations of what people think this might cost, so that we're putting a reasonable cost on the street to do what the scope of work asks for. You're also going to be in a better position when you put an RFP out if you have identified the skill sets and the expertise that you're looking for in your respondents and your consultants that are responding, so that you can grade the responses when they come in on those skill sets and expertise. So I am happy to work on that with people who have volunteered, and I'm more than happy to share that with this committee for your consideration. And I hope you'll take it all into consideration before you issue an RFP. That's my.
I mean, that sounds fine with me. I just think that we have, you know, as I was saying out throughout this process, as we have gone through this over the past, how many years now? 4 years. Has it been 4 years roughly that we've been doing this? That it has been very nebulous. It's been very nebulous what the plan was on that end of the spectrum. When it said, you know what I mean by that, that it never really was cohesive. And then when we got down to like the last year roughly, when we were, at least I was sitting at the meetings, something concrete, something solved, something that either has money or a concrete idea or is not so nebulous. And that is why, this is much more obviously organized and has a thrust to it, has something, an outcome, possible outcome. The reason I suggested that we form an ad hoc committee that was a function of the fire district was because I thought that might give it an authority that it would actually get something done. Do you know what I mean? And not be a nebulous sort of thing.
And I agree.
And, that was what I was thinking, because we have gone not back and forth, but we have gone around and around with this for quite a while when it comes to the organization, whatever the nonprofit, whatever the situation is. So that was my point. That's why I want this to be as painless as possible too, because obviously we saw what occurred at the special district meeting, which is that we passed, because of the way that the budget, because of the way that the financial wording of the warrant that we presented was, and because we were going to borrow money, we had to have the 2/3 majority. It passed by a majority, but not a 2/3 majority. And then the other vote passed by 1. So we still are in somewhat, it's still somewhat murky what the end result of this whole process will be when it comes to, when we get down the road with the money and we say, well, it's going to be $5 million, whatever. So that, I don't even know where I'm going with that, but I don't know. If you feel that, or if we feel that we can come up with a concrete, tonight we say, well, we're going to revisit this item at our meeting in September or October or whatever. And that by that date, we're going to be open to suggestions, or we're going to have, how do we make it concrete that
I get your point. I mean, maybe this will help frame the conversation. You asked about time. If next month, assuming there's an ad hoc committee, the ad hoc committee meets and comes to us and says, this is the proposal we have that we can then consider. May or may not accept all or part of it, but I do want to make sure that the people who are most interested in this have input into it. Frankly, because I think it'll make a better study, and frankly, because I don't want to, after the fact, we criticize you didn't take our thoughts into account. Is this something that can be done in a month?
I would say your August meeting may be safer, but I will strive to get to your July meeting, and I'll let you know before you have to get your agenda out. Certainly work my hardest to get you a draft and some ideas by the end of July. Give us a month.
Do we want to do this by, I don't want this
If we
to
form
be
it,
the Patty Daly show.
So,
Not that that's a bad thing. So I want to, if we have,
August
if
seems
we do
more
have an ad
realistic.
hoc committee,
do we have to have a representative of this committee on an ad hoc committee?
no.
So why don't we just form a committee and then and we'll
Yeah,
say.
and it
with the
needs to be
sunset
with the
date.
proponents and the people, it needs to be evenly divided between the people who want to make it a community center and the people who want to just demolish it.
Well, I don't even know that.
Why?
I don't-
Because
I
the
don't
thing
know
is
that.
demolishing it is a very cut and dry affair. And you don't really need to go in and debate or figure that out. How shall we demolish it? We shall demolish it because the question is gonna come at the time when it appears at the district meetings. You know what I mean?
But why should we spend time for the people that are proponents to decide how they want to use the building?
Because that's what that's what was voted at the special district meeting.
It
And also
wasn't,
voted.
it
in
wasn't
20
voted for you to do it.
No, I didn't say it was.
But we will, what I guess,
That's correct.
Yeah,
What-
it said that, somebody should look into the possible use of that. That's not how it was worded, but, find out how the building can be used. And I don't think that, I think if it can be used as a community center, fine, then you can figure out what you want to do there. But you've been having meetings and talking about this for almost 4 years.
No,
Oh, yes. The first letter that went out about this was pretty much 2 seconds after we were given the advice that, maybe we could take over the school.
you've been having meetings for 4 years. I have not.
I just think that really, we're gonna get to the point where it's gonna be at the annual or special district meeting where we're gonna be saying there will be option A or option B, one of which is inevitably going to be demolition.
Right.
And so it really is it's a non-issue. So say, for instance, this committee toils for the time and whatever and comes up and then we send out the RFP and then we get all those plans back and then we come up with the number and then that's it. And they have, okay, that's right. That's what that result was. Whatever that result is automatically going to have the opposite side presented, which is demolition. So I don't feel that we have
There's no point in having.
people fighting on the committee saying, well, I just think knock it down. And I say, well, I want to build do you know what I mean? And because we are automatically going to end up with that dichotomy.
But they don't have any money if it's just partially demolished. Do they expect the district is going to make it weather tight after that's
Have
done?
you read the materials I sent?
I read them.
The idea is it's a chicken and egg here. It's horse and cart. First you need to understand the costs. And then interested citizens can go out and find the resources through grants or contributions or other means to carry out some of the potential reuse purposes.
Right, but that's still.
And then we bring that to the voters of the district and say, this is what it's gonna cost you if you want to do this.
I think still,
What?
I don't think anybody's coming in with this, like, I want it to go this way or that way. I think what we want is just look at multiple for the various options, and then everybody can make a decision. Honestly, personally, I'd be happy either way. Coming up with a solution to utilize the building or to demolish it and coming up with a solution to use it as a park. This committee is not at all formed one leaning or another, but it's trying to give the villagers a picture of what could be done based on the knowledge of how this building's built. And then it goes to the next. So it's whether, Seth is saying you don't have time to do this. So, and maybe you don't join the meetings because if this goes ahead, we're talking about meeting every week, like get it going, get it moving. We've already lost the month of June and we really would like to get going.
So what we can do in order to not have it take too long is we can create the committee and then have a sunset date. This committee sunsets on this date.
I think that could be.
I mean, that's the
Idea.
easiest, in my opinion, and I can be the liaison to that committee, but
And I
just
can
because of
assist
all of
you,
my other stuff.
I can assist you with that. the understanding that there may not be a representative of the Prudential Committee at all the meetings, called. Now, if we create an ad hoc committee of the Prudential Committee, does that mean, I presume that we need to notice the meetings?
I think
Right,
you
and
do.
Have to notice.
Yeah,
But
and
that-
post the minutes and all. And as I said before, I'm willing to take that on. I could use assistance with postings. I'm not sure. You know, I don't know off the top of my head what your process is, but I know they need to go into the, so if I just give meeting notices to Charlie, I assume they'll make it to the town of Barnstable website and the fire district website.
We can figure it. However we do that. I would be in favor of creating an ad hoc committee. I think we can, as far as I'm concerned, we can create the committee tonight.
Do we have to specifically appoint
I
the
think
members?
we do.
Well, see, I disagree with the committee has to, this, you know, the chairman not being the person to.
What do you think, Charlie? You're the clerk with all the bylaws knowledge.
Well, then the potential committee would be the one to get committee. You would comprise.
Right.
Could be a potential member, could be citizens, it could be potential water.
Well, then why don't we just say that, you know, I would, if that's the way that we would do it, I would move to create a citizen committee for the purpose of the research of the RFP for alternative uses to its school property, and then put these people, this bunch.
I'm okay with that, with the understanding, of course, that the special district meeting warrant controls in terms of
Right.
what we have to do.
Right, and then it should sunset on August 30th at the latest, or July,
September?
No,
September.
no, it's,
No,
you know, this is costing money.
it's taking
Village
time to
residents.
be right back where we are in May,
Well,
not having an answer to this, like I would be in favor of giving it a month.
All right,
yeah,
July 30th. Is that the last day of July? I never.
Can I just suggest we go to August with the holiday coming up and lost June, given the meeting
Right.
all of June, and that would give us 2 months. So if it's from August, that would
August
be revisit.
August 15th. August 15th. I would move that the Prudential Committee create an ad hoc subcommittee relating to the elementary school property with a sunset of August 15th, consisting of Patty Daly, John Havel, Pat Lintel, Jamie Jackson, and Carol Zace.
And I'll be the liaison.
second,
All in favor? Aye.
nay.
Can I say something? So, I've done a lot of redevelopment in my life.
You can just,
Steve O'Connor, Sheldon. I spent 35 years doing affordable housing around the country. I'm the chair of the real estate program at George Washington University. Quite frankly, the hostility around this issue is both palpable and disappointing. 4 years is incredulous, right? You take an RFP, somebody comes out and says the building should be demolished, doesn't know what they're talking about. In real estate, there's a concept of highest and best use. What is the highest and best use for this building? What's going to generate jobs? What's going to generate housing? What's going to generate economic activity? What's going to be best for the community? Again, I know I'm flying in here, I get it, right? But this ain't hard. There should be money allocated to do an RFP, to bring in experts, to do an evaluation of the structural integrity of the building, and figure out what the highest and best use of the building is that can be put forward before the citizen and say, here's what experts have said to us. What do you think Sandwich just did with the wing school?
So let me interrupt for 1 second to say you have come to the party a little late in that this was done in advance of the special district meeting. And there was an architectural report done on the costs of renovating the school, as well as reports done as the cost of demolishing the school.
Renovating it to what?
Renovating it, this was discussed at length, this is the Habib report, back into a school. So there are items in the report that frankly would not be needed in a community center, but it is an extremely detailed report. I urge you to look at the Prudential Committee website where it's been for probably a year. And it's easy to determine what those costs will be. So you are coming a little late to.
Granted, I apologize. I apologize. But again, all I'm saying is.
And also, the result of that meeting was, that Seth indicated, 59% of voters voted to have the meeting or the building demolished. And the majority, which was not enough because it was gonna be bonded, it required a 67% majority. And a bare majority voted for additional study. So we are doing that additional study, but there has been substantial water underneath the bridge.
Just so you understand, the reason that we accepted this building from the town of Barnstable was because of its within one of our water wells. And it was taken, so, there isn't gonna be any housing there or any commercial, anything there.
Our initial interest in the property was
Was
wellhead preservation because it's in a zone 2. It's even in a zone 1, really, because it's only 500 feet up gradient of one of our wellheads.
Yeah.
So initially, when we were gonna take this over, it was strictly it was brought to us by the water commissioners for wellhead preservation and water preservation. So there was never really we didn't intend for this to go in this direction at all. It was gonna be returned to green space.
In fact, the property was subdivided particularly so we would not have any recreation. That is the ball field and the tennis courts remained with the town, and that because we didn't want the liability or expense of recreation, which now kind of after we have the people think that maybe we could have recreation facilities there. So again, there's been substantial backstory here. I thought the special district meeting actually was people had strong views in each direction, but it was straightforward and cordial may be too strong a word, but I'll use that word. So this is where we ended up.
So tell me about the stalemate. Why the stalemate?
Stalemate in what?
Of going forward with make some level of leadership coming together to make a decision to do something.
I was gonna propose tonight that we go out with a request for consultants, architectural consultants, to look at different consulting architects that we could go to get this process moving.
I think that's a great idea. I think, and again, anybody there's no demographic that supports another school. I mean, the reason why they're closing it and I mean, that's just full, right? But clearly, it has a use, it has a purpose, and adaptive reuse is happening all over the place, right? And again, I get the water problem, but I spent an hour with John Cox last Monday at Cape Cod Community College, looking at his eco toilets, right? And the types of technologies that are available these days, architectural, design, construction materials, so that we don't put effluent back into the system. There's
all of this is possible and
with leadership.
Well, this was not our intention. It's not our intention at all. It's the elected body that is responsible for this. So it is now our responsibility, and that's what we're doing. It was only a month and a half since we had that meeting. Well, our intention, our stated goal and intention from the very beginning of this process was to demolish this building. No question about it. We never minced our words at all about that.
And just so you know, we haven't been dragging our feet. There was a school committee made, as soon as we were approached by the town. And we met fairly regularly and had a negotiating team. Mark was on it, that worked with the town. And, but, you know, we didn't own it. People think that we could have done an RFP when we didn't own it. We didn't own this building until November. So,
So that's, yeah, yeah. We voted to create the committee, correct? The ad hoc committee?
Yes.
Okay,
So now are we in?
we're back in public comment.
So Pat Lintel from 336 Main Street. I think one of the reasons that the community has not gotten involved to the extent that they could get involved was from the comment that was just made by yourself, is that you were taking control of the building to demolish it. And that you were not putting it out there to the community to determine the highest and best use of the property. Which very possibly could be not to demolish it, but to make something out of it that can benefit the community. And
I just have one other thing I want to say. The proponents of the community center say that they're going to raise the money and they'll operate it. And it won't cost the district anything. And they've never even talked about economics as far as I know about doing that. Looking into, you know,
that's because a lot of the people that could talk about the economics thought they were shut out. And why go through the hassle of putting a proposal together if it wasn't going to be considered? There is a way to make that building economically profitable.
but not with district money.
I didn't say district money. I didn't say district money.
And that may be the case. You know, our duty is primarily financial oversight. And from, as I've said, and I'll say it again, I've said it at a number of meetings, with the escalation of our tax situation on the town level and then soon to be the fire district level, it just didn't make, it wasn't prudent for us to add another significant capital investment. It could possibly cost multi-million dollars and have a continuing cost, you know, associated with upkeep and operation. With the water treatment facility that the water commissioners say sometimes we're gonna need, and sometimes they say, no, we're not. It's pretty clear that we will need.
Yeah.
And then we have a fire station that just got funded, or the design phase of the fire station just got funded. That's gonna be $15 million if that gets approved. So if you have a $10 million water filtration plant and a $15 million fire station, do you really need to have another multi-million dollar? Just, and then with the comprehensive wastewater management, the town, all of that stuff is gonna create a perfect storm of taxation. And we didn't feel that it's a fiscally responsible thing when we'll always have land. And we don't have a conservation restriction on our side of it, but the town has it on their side. That it was just the best thing to do was to demolish the building. And we lost in our attempts to do that up to this point, and that's why we're right here right now.
But who says that has to be the responsibility?
The discouraging thing here is that this.
But that was what we were trying to
discuss ad nauseam.
Yes, and that's why I'm.
Leading up to the special district meeting and at the special district meeting. So I don't know if either of you gentlemen were at the special district meeting.
I know.
No, we're here now talking about it because.
Okay, well, a lot has happened.
You're at a critical
We didn't
point.
elect.
Yes, there was a critical point at the special district meeting where about 260 people attended.
I was there,
And so you know that a great deal of time and effort was put into that.
but there was also the feeling by the citizenry of the village that there was no options, that you were going to demolish the building. That was the feeling that
That was because the people wanted to demolish the building.
I would not say you're correct,
Well, 59%
Well,
of people at that
59%,
meeting
but
voted.
there was no other proposal given to them so that they could make a good case judgment.
This is why we're gonna have an ad hoc committee meeting.
Yeah,
Now's the time. You're going to propose what you want
yeah,
in specific.
but you can't do that in 6 weeks.
Oh, no,
No,
sir.
no, that ship is sailed.
I have got stacks of paper of ideas that the people who want this have been collecting. daycare,
Aquatic centers.
aquatic centers, advice on taxes. A lot of these things that are suggested are already available in the data.
May I make a point about the deadline of August 15th? I think that is incredibly short amount of time just to give you input on what the RFP should include, all right? But we cannot tell you what uses or costs are going to ensue until the study is finalized and we have the outcome of that study.
And by outcome, you mean,
The findings.
let's assume that specifically as for the findings. We're going to, because this is what I'm contemplating, I assume you guys are as well. We are going to knock down the 1970s edition and retain the rest to use for the following purposes.
Mhm.
We are going to knock down everything in the left-hand wing, and go with the rest. We are going to knock down everything except for the
Gym, yeah.
We are gonna we'll keep the gym, but we want a kitchen in there as well. And we're gonna have numbers for those things. That's what I'm contemplating. And to get those numbers, we will have to have, by community center, we mean these kinds of classes, those kinds of gym facilities.
But to
Hold on
have,
just a minute. That is what I am contemplating is going to be the end result of these studies, because and what it would cost to demolish it. Because that's what's in this special district meeting warrant.
Okay, let's get clear about this. So what I'm anticipating the study to do is to look at the physical plant of the building and the grounds. So if we take down, the modern addition, let's say.
Right.
What does that look like? If we keep the kitchen, the gym, and, the rest of the main classrooms, what does that look like? If we make it a little smaller, what does that look like? So.
And when you said, what does it look like to me?
Cost.
Quantum, how much?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
You and I are thinking exactly along the
Okay,
same.
So then, once we understand that, then we can begin to talk about what kinds of uses could potentially go in there. So I'm just saying, if you give it into the findings, wait, sorry, it's time to make comments. So just, sorry, this is really important. So we get you an RFP by August 15th. Put it out, then the respondents have to bid. You have to give them at least a month to respond. Then they have to do the work. So it's
But at that point, the goal.
We
You
have
wanna just move past-
other people that wish to speak.
L'Oreal, do you have your hand still raised?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out that you made a statement, someone made a statement that from the start was to demolish it. But we were also waiting. I'm just gonna get off this other one. We were also waiting for the fire department to decide whether they wanted to use it at one point. So there's a little revisionist history going on here. It's been much more complicated than we're going to knock down the building. I mean, there was a long discussion about the fire department using it, and they finally decided they wanted to do something else. And I would say, I asked specifically if the Prudential would support doing something else, and you said point blank no. So I stopped. I couldn't see us doing anything without the support of the Prudential committee. So, I think we really have to step back and recognize that giving us now a month and a half and saying that we've had years, it's not true. We haven't ever had the support so that we feel like we can get together and not be wasting our time. That's just happened in the last month or so. And I think giving us just until August 15th is very unfair.
How about we report in by August 15th and see where we need
I am not in favor of that.
I'm not in favor. I don't think it's the community's responsibility to write the RFP. That is our responsibility to hire the people to do that.
Right, so what I'm envisioning and what we had discussed is that what it is that the eventualities, what you envision, A, B, and C, say. And it doesn't have to be 100% fleshed out. This has to be A, B, and C, say, just for the sake of argument. This envelope, that. Envelope. And then that would be the sunset of this committee. And then we will take that information, and of course, as we're doing today, and we will have public meetings about it continuously, to then to engage the professionals that we require to write the RFP, to get the quotes, to find out how much it's gonna be, and then return to the public and to the district meeting and say what it's gonna be.
After the study's done and we know what the outcome of the findings of the study are, which is gonna take some time. That was my.
Right, like the study, meaning the professional stuff. But
Yes.
we're gonna tell, you guys are supposed to, in my imagining, to tell them what to look at. And I
Yes,
think you can do that. And
okay.
I mean, I really do. I don't think it has to be so directed that, or so refined that it would take months. That's just my feeling. I just think that if we can, and it's not an open and shut case. I mean, I always get so, I feel, we've been working on this for years. And I personally, anyway, have tried to keep it transparent, and we have allowed lots of public comment, not like for anybody who's been involved in the fire district for any number of years. I think we've done a better job of this than a lot of different things over the past 10 years or whatever. And so it always is, I think, a little bit disingenuous to make it sound like we're trying to pull the wool over everybody's eyes and just say, well, this is the way we want. Like the previous speaker said about the fire department, we're deciding whether they wanted to do something there or not. The water commissioner said there cannot be a fire station here. So, you know what I mean?
It's cheap room, even made a design of how that.
But that's what he could say, but I mean, was that like, is that,
Very much.
but was it realistic? Because in the meantime, right, but to say, you also would admit that the water commissioners, who were the genesis of this whole process, said, no way. So we're all different things. Anyway, we should move on.
We will do as much as we can in the time frame you give us.
Great, it'll be great.
Okay.
It'll be,
Thank you.
we'll do what we can.
All right, moving on. Election of officers. Charlie, would you like to remain clerk of the Katuitt Fire District?
Yes. Answer the no.
Ray, would you like to remain the treasurer of the Katuitt Fire District?
Yes.
All right, so I nominate Mark Lynch for chairman of the committee, the Prudential committee, and I nominate myself for vice chair of the committee.
I'll second Mark's nomination. And your nomination.
Thank
Yes. Okay,
All those in favor?
of which one first? Both together?
Both together.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion to
I move to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Thank you. Second.
All those in favor? Second. Aye.